Good evening or good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Tan Xiao Chin, and I'm moderating the 11th YouTube session of the 8th International Women's Day edition of our Read for Pixels campaign. Through Read for Pixels, the Pixel Project is collaborating with 14 award-winning best-selling authors to raise awareness about violence against women and to raise funds for the Pixel Project to keep our efforts to end violence against women alive and kicking. We'll be telling you more about the Read for Pixels fundraiser, which has lots and lots of exclusive author goodies a little later in the session. And you can find out more about the Pixel Project by visiting www.thepixelproject.net. Now, we have a very special guest for today's live Read for Pixels discussion and Q&A session, the awesome mystery and romance author, Sue Ann Jaffarian. And here she is. Hi, welcome to Read for Pixels, Sue Ann.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Now, as you all might know, Sue Ann is the author of 3 acclaimed mystery series, as well as other novels and short stories. She's a retired paralegal and a full-time nomadic writer, currently traveling the United States while living in a camper van, which you can see there. Now, her most recent work includes Finding Zelda, the first book in a humorous series about a young woman's adventures on the road, kind of like Sue Ann herself. As well as the thrilling Dead Woman Driving serial novel, which is also set in she's also traveling, but like in a slightly different atmosphere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, aside from being with us here today, Sue Ann has also generously donated some super exclusive treats to the stash of author goodies we have up as perks for donors at the Read for Pixels Rally Up fundraising page. The first goodie she's offering is to Tuckerize you in her next book. For donors in the United States only, if you have ever dreamed of being immortalized in a mystery crime novel featuring awesome and intrepid female detectives and sleuths, then look no further. Sue Ann is offering a rare Tuckerization bundle for one very generous Read for Pixels donor in the United States, which includes one opportunity to name a minor character in her next book. The donor gets to choose between either Dead Ringer, which is the upcoming second book in the Zelda Brown series, or book 13 in her popular ODELIA GREY series. As she's also giving one signed copy of the book when it's released so that you can keep it as a memento. Now, these next 2 goodies are for donors worldwide. Goodie number 2 is a one-on-one video chat with Sue Ann. She's offering a chance for one generous donor or for Read for Pixels to claim a 1-hour video chat, during which she'll be happy to share her insights on the art and craft of writing, chat about the business of publishing, or even just shoot the breeze about books and life with you. And you can ask about her travels through the States. Now, Sue Ann would also be happy to have this session with a mystery crime book club or writing group. So you can even team up with your fellow mystery aficionados to donate for this video chat. And goodie number 3 is the Dead Woman Driving ebook bundle. For donors who are looking for something fresh to read, Sue Ann is offering one complete digital set of her Dead Woman Driving serial novel. Now, this novel is about Hope Callahan, who has led a rough life, often with a side of crime to survive, and is on the run in an RV after a drug deal gone wrong. This is perfect for anyone who's looking for an unusual mystery featuring a woman who is given a second chance in life. There is just one each of Sue Ann's exclusive goodies, and they are available on a first-come, first-served basis. So do go on and donate to our fundraiser today to snag your choice of a Sue Ann Jaffarian treat. We have raised $2,177 towards our $5,000 goal so far, so please do give generously before the fundraiser ends on April 15. All funds go towards the Pixel Project's work to help end violence against women. And if you're watching this session live on YouTube, you will also be able to ask Sue Ann questions right now. Just make sure you're logged into your YouTube account so that you can type your questions into the chat box to the right of the YouTube screen. And Anusha, who is today's producer and chat box moderator, will relay to me to read out to Sue Ann to answer. So Sue Ann, what will you be reading for us today?
I'm going to be reading a piece from episode 5 of Dead Woman Driving. And it's Hope Callahan has now changed her name to Kate Hastings, and she has a new job. She is a fixer for a mysterious agency, which can involve everything from pet sitting to hurting people or saving people. So this is a section from episode 5, and I think it fits in with our theme today very, very well. Hope is somebody, or Kate Hastings now, is somebody who is in the process of taking back her life. So should I begin?
Okay, so just before you start, just to let all of you know, Sue Ann's reading does contain some violence, although I would say it's more the vengeful type. But if that disturbs you, please feel free to take a break and come back a bit later to join our Q&A session. So, all right, over to you, Sue Ann.
Thank you. Here we go. Let me know if that creep bothers you again, Kate, Michael said. He's known for being rough on women. He's accosted a few in our parking lot. Manager said one more complaint and he's banished from the place. I'll believe it when I see it. It was something Kate could easily believe from her own experience. If there have been complaints, why has he been given any chances at all? Weren't the complaints legal? Michael shrugged. It's complicated. Gus is supposedly connected to a drug gang, something like their local connection. The few women who complained withdrew their accusations, including one who was raped. I'm sure there are others who never stepped forward at all. It can't be good for business to have a known predator lurking about, Kate noted. When Gus comes in, it's only on the weekends, when the younger women are here for the music and dancing, and even then he's not here every weekend. Michael scanned the crowd. We tried to quietly warn the girls, and word has gotten out about him. After the last incident, our security walks most of the women to their cars when Gus is around. Kate shivered again and took a long pull on her beer. Seeing Gus had rattled her down to her toes. Lost my place. I'm sorry. But he plainly didn't recognize her. That was good, but she couldn't stop thinking about how many women he had assaulted and would continue to assault. When she returned to the casino parking lot, she tried to settle down by reading. It was getting late, but she was still unable to sleep. She put down her book and picked up her baton, swinging it, hitting her pillow and the cushions on the dinette as her anger increased. Gus and Steg's crew invaded her thoughts, haunting her like a bad dream. But it hadn't been a bad dream. It had been her reality. She wanted Gus to pay for what he had done to her and to Nick. She wanted him to pay for what he had done to those other women. She wanted her baton to be striking him. She wanted to make him hurt. Could she make him hurt? It wasn't a matter of if she could strike him. Kate knew she could bring down the baton with force on Gus with no moral issues at all. But would she be able to follow him, observe him, stalk him until he was alone? I'm sorry again. And vulnerable without making herself noticeable. It wasn't a question of conscience as much as mechanics. She only knew that Gus was local to the area and came to this casino on Friday or Saturday nights. She didn't even know what kind of vehicle he drove or if he came alone to the casino. He had appeared to be alone tonight, but what about other nights? The way her trailer was parked, she had a good view of the main entrance and parking area to the casino from her dinette window. RVs parked in the outer area. There were fewer security lights on the perimeter and fewer people. She wondered about security cameras. She slipped into her jacket and took a walk. She spotted cameras closer in toward the entrance, but none in the outer areas. That didn't mean they weren't there. Maybe there were some, but she couldn't see them. But the others were obvious, so Kate felt there were few to none along the outer area. As she walked closer to the casino, she could hear the noise from inside whenever the front doors opened. She returned to her trailer. There were a couple of other RVs in the area, but they looked tucked in for the night. Like her baton, Kate always kept her binoculars handy, whether she was in her truck or the trailer. She picked them up from the counter in the trailer, turned out the lights, and settled into the bench at the dinette to watch. The front of the casino was brightly lit, as the parking lot in that area. She could easily see the people coming in and out. If she was lucky, she might spot Gus as he left and went to his vehicle. Then at least she would know what he drove. There was another entrance, but it was smaller and on the side. Most people came and went through the large main door. She looked at the time. The casino didn't close until 2 a.m., and it was only 11. At least it wasn't a 24-hour casino. Would Gus find an unwitting victim and leave early with her, or would he stay until closing? And how drunk would he be? Either way, Kate was willing to wait him out. Kate put down the binoculars and quickly rifled through her closet for something dark to wear. She had on black jeans and paired them with a bulky black sweatshirt that made her look much bigger. There was a logo on the front of the sweatshirt, so she turned it inside out. She also pulled out a small duffel with some of Ozzy's tools of the trade that she had inherited. Inside was a ski mask and black gloves. She dressed quickly, glancing through the binoculars often to make sure she wasn't missing anything. She pulled on the ski mask and looked into the mirror. She looked like a bank robber. She took off the ski mask and resumed looking at the casino entrance. She was wired and ready. Her body hummed like a tuning fork. A little before midnight, she was rewarded for her vigilance. Gus came out of the casino. Kate's eyes followed him as he made his way to an older truck parked several rows to the right of the entrance. The parking lot was thinning, and there weren't many vehicles near his, making it easier for her to watch. After fumbling with his keys, he finally managed to get inside. Kate grabbed her own keys, her baton, one of her pistols, and the ski mask, and left the trailer for her own truck. She started the engine but left the lights off. Gus's truck didn't move. Kate wondered if he was going to sleep off his drunk in the truck instead of driving. But several minutes later, the engine started and the lights came on. Another few minutes and the truck slowly headed for the exit. Once on the road, Kate turned on her lights. She followed Gus, keeping several car lengths behind him. His truck moved slowly and on occasion swerved over the line. Typical drunk driving. If he was that blitz, he probably wouldn't notice anyone following him. She was also glad the casino was in a rural area. There was almost no traffic, especially this late. She kept her distance and prayed he didn't plow into the rare oncoming vehicle. After several miles, Gus turned down another paved 2-lane road. Kate was glad it wasn't a dirt road leading to his home or even to his gang. As with the other road, there were no streetlights, just his headlights and hers. She turned hers off. She stayed well behind him. In the dark night, she didn't need to be up close to see him. She just had to follow his taillights. Soon he pulled to the side of the road and parked, but left his engine running. Kate pulled a little closer and slipped into the ski mask. Gus got out of the truck and walked behind it, leaving the driver's door open. The light from the cab gave her enough light to watch him. Music blasted from the inside of the truck. She worried that maybe he did notice her and was going to confront her or whoever was following him, probably with a gun. She reached over and felt the cold steel of her own gun on the passenger seat. She didn't want to shoot him, but would if she had to defend herself. She didn't want to kill him. What she wanted was to beat him, make him hurt, give him something to remember. Gus didn't seem to notice Kate at all, not even as she slipped out of her truck and with great stealth headed toward him. He was too busy taking a leak at the side of the road, a long, loud, satisfying piss. When he turned around to go back to his truck, he was confronted by a dark figure holding something in its right hand. Gus fumbled for his gun where it usually sat at his waist, but it wasn't there. The casino did not allow guns inside, and he'd probably hidden it in the truck and forgotten about it in his drunken stupor. Gus raised his hands up. "Hey, man, what's up?" "I don't want no trouble. I just needed to piss." Kate said nothing. "You want money?" Gus asked. "My wallet's in the truck. Let me get it, and it's yours. Just let me go." Kate backed up and indicated for Gus to head back to the truck door. She knew it wasn't the wallet he would retrieve, but his gun. She didn't intend for him to get that far. As soon as he cleared the back end of the truck and turned his back on her, she struck like a cobra, her baton hitting him squarely on one of his knees. He dropped to the ground, clutching it, screaming in pain. The baton hit Gus over and over. It struck his torso, arms, and legs as he sprawled on the ground. His cries of pain were mixed with sobbing as he begged for his life. Kate beat him until she was exhausted. She beat him for everything he did to her and Nick. She beat him for everything her father had done to her, Brenda, and Sylvie. She beat him until she, too, was close to sobbing. She was about to strike one last blow, this one to the head, when something stopped her. A memory of something she'd learned in the training videos for the baton. A strike to his head would kill him. Emotionally, she was ready to send him to his grave, but common sense won out. If she were caught, assault would be easier to defend than murder. The last blow wasn't with the baton. Kate balled up a fist, bent over, and drove it into Gus's face, breaking his nose. He howled with pain. Then the beating stopped. Without saying a single word to him, Kate turned and jogged back to her truck. Once inside, she made a U-turn and headed back to the casino.
Wow. Well, I mean, okay, let's just hop straight into the Q&A, yeah? As we have just heard you reading, your books definitely feature interesting, resourceful, and strong female characters like Hope Callahan, also known as Kate Hastings,
Mhm.
from your current Deadwood Woman driving serial novel, as you just read for us. Paralegal and amateur investigator ODELIA Grey, former Hollywood wife turned amateur paranormal sleuth Emma Whitecastle, and her dead great grandmother, Ish Reynolds, also known
Yeah.
as Granny Apples. Now, who or what are your inspirations for your female characters?
Well, for each one, it was different. When I first started writing Odelia,
Mm,
which was the series that launched my career, I wanted a strong woman who had always been overlooked. She's overweight, she's middle aged. Um, I wanted to show that such women were strong and smart and
mm,
capable.
yeah.
And so, and I succeeded with that. I get a lot, especially when the series was new, I got a lot of mail about how people enjoyed seeing that type of woman featured in a series.
Yep.
Um, you know, Emma Whitecastle was a Hollywood wife who was cast aside for someone younger.
Mm,
Again, common story, but I wanted to show someone who was triumphant in that. And then I paired it with the paranormal, and that's actually kind of a funny series. But Emma is smart and moved on. She's moved on from her bad first marriage and
mm,
has succeeded. Uh, and it's interesting that in Dead Woman Driving, though, that is probably the harshest of my
mm,
writing. I'm kind of known for writing lighter stuff,
yeah.
but in Dead Woman Driving, I wanted to talk about a woman who was abused as a child and as a young teen, and then ran away from home and has been living by her wits, sometimes not legally, but living by her wits. And in the first episode, she is found near dead in the desert after
Mm,
encountering Gus and his gang for the first time. And she's rescued by an old geezer in an RV, and he gives her a new life. He dies, but he gives her a new life. And so she is now repairing her life and spends a lot of her time now helping other people, men and women, uh, who are in difficult situations.
mm,
So every book I write, I try to put very strong women in it. Even
mm,
in Finding Zelda, Zelda is just a 30-something trying to find her way in the world. She, she didn't come from the best home, but not a bad home.
mm,
Um, but she's trying to find herself in a crazy world, and she strikes out and finds her voice and her independence. So
mm,
that's very important to me. That I turn my characters, if they've been victimized, I turn them into solid, growing people.
mm,
And so that's where I get the inspiration from. It's like there are so many incidences in life of
mm,
women being taken advantage of, abused, assaulted. And it's not just all young women, it's not all women on the street.
mm.
Sometimes it's a wife in Hollywood. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to show all of these different situations and how women came out of it
Mm,
and had a good life, built themselves a good life.
yeah. All right. And yes, so let's dive a bit deeper into that. Now, the mystery and crime genre, it has its fair share of female stereotypes and tropes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ranging from being set up as a victim to motivate the male protagonist to being the mysterious femme fatale. So, how do you challenge such stereotypes and subvert tropes to create female characters with complexity and agency when dealing with the world around them, including situations that involve sexism, misogyny, and violence against women and girls? Hello,
Um,
Kathy.
yeah, there's my cat. My cat just walked in front. That's Moxie.
Yeah.
I was wondering if she'd make an appearance. Um, as far as the stereotypes, I try not to have them in the books.
Mm,
There's sometimes peripheral characters will be a stereotype more to show how ridiculous it is.
mm,
um, but like Odelia, let's go back to Odelia.
yeah.
She's very overweight, and
Mm,
overweight women, especially middle-aged over women, are invisible. And I
mm,
really wanted to take that and turn it on its head. Um, Interesting. Early on in the series, I actually had a man email me and say he always disliked overweight women until he
mm.
read that book. And then he said, now I'm looking at them in a different light. Okay, my
Wow.
job here is done,
Yay.
and of course I'm an overweight middle-aged woman, or an older woman now. But I really try not to have the stereotypes.
Mm,
Um, and I think a good way to bust the stereotypes is not to keep perpetuating them.
yes, definitely.
And the same with the male characters. It's there are men in some of the books that try to hurt or try to be mansplaining, whatever, and they are
Mm.
dealt with. They're dealt with. I deal with that out on the road. There's always a man trying to tell me how to do something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I deal with that constantly. So,
Aw. Yeah. Okay, that's great. And we will hop on to your talking about your male characters a bit later on. But let's continue with your female characters.
okay.
Now, so they are obviously resourceful detectives who solve their crimes with ingenuity.
Yes.
However, readers may perceive them as being pushy or stubborn instead of lauding them as driven and determined, as they would do if they were actually male detectives. So
Yes.
do you ever feel pressured by cultural and social expectations to make your female characters relatable and likable?
No. And the reason is I try not to live that type of life myself. Yeah, there are times like, they might seem pushy and all that, but if a woman's pushy, she's called pushy. If a man's pushy, he's called assertive.
Exactly.
I think it should be the same for both. Why
Mm-hmm.
can't a man be called pushy? You know,
Yep.
I've certainly met some pushy men in my life. um, but and sometimes I address that in the books. Somebody will say, well, you're kind of a piece of work. Well, thank you. um,
Mhm.
and just trying to turn it around and
Mm,
not buy into that. I never want to write a main character. Secondary character is one thing, but a
mm,
main character, I never want a main character who is going to fall victim to that misogyny. I want, when somebody reads the book, I want them to see that people can stand up. Even a fictional character can mean something to them.
yes. Yeah. Okay. Now, so in addition, your books include a range of female relationships,
Mhm.
including friendship, sisterhood, and even rivalries that feel very real to many female readers. What can you suggest for writers who want to write female conversations and relationships realistically, or at least plausibly?
Well, draw them. I draw that when I do like conversations to people, it depends on the two people. Um, it really depends on the two people, but I write conversations that I picture myself having. Uh,
Mm,
Even if, like Odelia, even if she's talking about getting a manicure and going shopping and all that, she's talking to her best friend about that, but they also discuss other things. And I try to make it non-superficial, and make it just much more realistic. And we all do have different relationships in our lives. I mean, one of the things I'm very proud of is that I have a couple of lesbian couples in a few of my books, and some of my lesbian friends have said that I nailed it, but then I went to some of my lesbian friends and said, here, read this, does this sound right? You want to get it right. But and the same with the men, when Odelia talks to her boss, who can be very annoying, she stands up for herself, and she gets very sarcastic and snotty with him, which in the real life might get her fired. But but you can take those liberties in fiction. It's I like to put kind of a comic spin when somebody's being kind of a jerk. I like to put a comic spin on it and make them look ridiculous rather than, be angry over it. Let's make them look ridiculous.
Yeah. Yes, still, I mean, I am sure more than one person, including myself, totally finds it cathartic when Odelia's all sassy and puts Mike Steele in his place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Mike Steele is actually a favorite character in the thing. He was only supposed to be in one book and one book only, but he, being the pushy guy he is, insisted on being in every book. And
yes.
and he is a favorite character amongst the readers, actually.
I'm sure. I mean, he's like, we love to hate these kind of characters, don't
Yes.
we?
But it's nice to note, if anyone has read, there are 12 books in the Odelia series. And, near the end, he turned from being antagonistic, and over the years of working with Odelia has come to love her like a sister. And they still have this snotty banter going on, but he's very loyal to her and she to him. And you see that develop throughout the book, how this guy who really just was like, turned into an advocate for her.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's really a lovely character arc, I have to say. And yes, on that note, let's hop into your male characters. So, there's such a wide variety of of male characters in your books, ranging from the sexist and the misogynistic to those who respect women as their equals. Do you think reframing how stories describe men away from hostile and toxic stereotypes and towards complexity and even vulnerability can be one of the ways mystery and crime writers can break away from harmful tropes that promote toxic masculinity and the dehumanization of women in the genre?
I think so, but you still have to have a balance. There still has to be a bad guy, like in the Ghost of Granny Apples, Emma Whitecastle's first husband is an absolute self-centered Hollywood jerk. He's a misogynist. He cheats on her. He wants her to look a certain way, all this. And so after the divorce, when I brought in a love interest for her, he's kind of a misogynist when he starts out. And then he evolves. I mean, not only does he have to deal with the fact that come to the belief that she is a medium and does talk to ghosts, but he had to learn that this woman was not going to take crap off him. She had done that for many years on her first husband and was not going to move forward with a relationship in the same vein. Yes. And he is a lovely man. He went from the first time they met to being kind of a jerk to he's a lovely man. He has evolved. And that's what I like. That's what I like. And even in Dead Woman Driving, Kate has a boyfriend by, I think, the third book. And he's a lovely person. Even though she's met up with some real jerks in her past, I didn't want her to go through life thinking all men were like that, Yeah. We have to know. I mean, in my life, I've dated jerks and I've dated lovely men. So,
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a balance. But if you don't have the negative side, you don't see how good the good side is.
Yeah. There's no light. There's no dark without light, or something like that.
Right. There's no light without dark and no
Yes.
dark without light. There really isn't.
Yeah. And okay, let's go more specifically into the violent alpha male character, which is such a long-standing trope in the mystery crime genre. Do you think that this type of character will eventually be phased out of mystery and crime books as
Hmm.
cultures worldwide start kicking out toxic masculinity? Or do you think it's one of those stereotypes that will stick around for much longer than expected?
Well, are you talking as a protagonist or just as a general character in the book, one of the peripheral characters?
Genre character. I mean, you can approach it however way you feel best.
Well, I think that macho. Let's take Jack Reacher. If you've ever read Lee
Mm.
Child's Jack Reacher,
Yes.
very very masculine, macho, violent. Um, he is going to be around forever. Lee Child has retired. His brother's picking up the banner. That's going to be around
Mm,
forever. Um, you look at Michael Connelly's books, who I love,
mm,
and even though Bosch is violent at times, it's
mhm,
when it's warranted. He's a
mm,
nice guy, but he is at times stuck in a certain way.
yeah.
Um, I think these are going to be popular forever. Now,
Mm,
but at the same time, if you read these books from the very first one through the series, you'd still see the authors um, evolving those characters.
mm,
A good example is Michael Connelly's Harry Bosch.
mm,
He's much more likable now than he was at the beginning. Um,
mm,
and I think they learn. And if a character in a book, whether it's a male or female, isn't learning, if it's a long series and they're exactly the same on book 10 as they were in book 1,
mm.
I believe the author failed. I believe the author should educate them and evolve them as each book goes,
I think
and whether
Momsy
it's male or
agreed.
female.
Sorry, I just heard Momsy meow, and I think she agreed.
Yeah, she's meowing. She's looking outside, meowing at something.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely, yes. So characters, they can evolve and hopefully, like, yes, go beyond the stereotype, right?
And go beyond the stereotype. Absolutely.
Mm,
They can get warmer. They can fall in love. They can, maybe the violence is less violent unless it's warranted. I mean, if somebody's coming at them with a gun, they're going to shoot to kill.
mm,
That's always going to be with us. People love those macho things. I mean, I'm in the middle of reading a book by Matt Coyle, one of my friends,
mm,
and his Rick Cahill character, very violent when it's warranted, and the poor guy is getting shot and all this stuff. Um, but he's evolved from book 1. I've read all the books in the series. From book 1 to
mm,
now, that character has evolved,
mm,
and so I think it is. I think it's going to be around, but I think with the talent behind the writer, the characters from the
mm,
author, I think they can show a lighter, more evolved thing. Like Rick Cahill would never beat a
mm,
woman. He would never
mm,
do that.
mm,
He's not a misogynist at all, but he is still a violent man
mm.
when it's warranted in his work. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yes, yes, totally
Okay.
does. Okay, and that kind of like hops off into our next question segment, which is books and stories in the mystery crime genre usually involve some kind of violence, as we were
Mhm.
talking about, including violence against women. And even though many of your books can be classified as cozy mysteries where the
Mhm.
violence takes place off page, your female protagonists do face some form of violence at some point in their personal lives and during their detective work. And I think that this is particularly so in Dead Woman Driving.
Oh,
Now,
yes. Well, that's not cozy at all. That would never
yes,
be
no.
classified as cozy.
Yeah, and so how do you find a balance between showing violence as an integral part of the story and not showing it gratuitously?
Well, I think for me, I
Mm,
have to speak for myself. I don't like reading gratuitous violence. I think when I read a book, if I'm reading a scene that's violent, I think, did that scene need to be there? Yes, it
mm,
did.
mm,
Or maybe it didn't. But when I'm writing, I think, does that scene need to be there? There's a scene, and I'm, it's a spoiler, but it happened nearly 20 years ago in book 2 of ODELIA, where she actually shoots and kills somebody.
Yes.
And that's very violent. And she's not a violent person, but she was driven to that to protect somebody. And, but in later books, I bring that up all the time on how she is still year after year after year dealing with having taken a human life.
Yes.
And so I think there are times when the violence needs to be there on the page. But there are times I'll read a book and I think, oh, did they really need to go into that detail? So I think it's up to the individual author what their comfort level is. But I've read books where I really think the author did it for shock's sake, as opposed to writing a good book. And that's usually when I read a book like that, I won't go back and read another book by that author. But sometimes it feels like it's just for shock. So I don't want that. There's a saying in writing that if it doesn't promote or push forward the story, it doesn't belong there. And sometimes violence does, and sometimes it doesn't. And you need to know as an author how to balance that.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually jumps in nicely into my next question. But before that, I just wanted to say that I really liked the way how you you didn't just let Odelia do what she did and then it's all forgotten by the next book, and you had her actually deal with the consequences, which I think is something that a lot of writers, whether books or movies or TV series, they tend to forget. It's like, oh, it's over and done with, and let's move on with the next book or the next episode.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So yes, coming back to the question, how do you think mystery crime thriller authors can tackle the issue of violence against women without falling back on harmful stereotypes and tropes?
Well, I think they just have to write it with an open mind and a evolved mind. Violence against women is often used in books for the main crime. That's never going to stop, nor should it, because that's reality. That's the life. That's the world we live in. But how it's handled is what tells you whether the writer, whether it be male or female, how evolved that person is and how they present it and solve it and handle it. I mean, how does the victim feel? Do they talk about the victim's feelings or the feelings of the family if it's a death? That's where you can see that growth. If they're just, if they just kill somebody and say, okay, let's go find the killer without having that emotional investment, I think that's bad. That's that's not showing somebody who is growing along with their work.
And so to put it on a wider canvas, do you think that mystery crime thriller stories can be used to address the issue of sexism, misogyny, and violence against women? And if so, how?
I do think it can be. I think it can. I think like if you have a story where there's a lot of like I also have 2 books in a vampire mystery, the Madison Rose series. There's 2 books in it, and in the first book, there's people going around murdering women, and yet that's important to the story. But throughout the book, again, it's treated with respect. I mean, the investigator on it keeps bringing up the fact these are women who lived. These are real people. And I think that's how writers, if they're not looking just to shock a reader, if they're really looking to write a book with depth to it, they'll talk about the victims in a respectful way, talk about their families, talk about the impact that death made on other people.
Yeah.
That's what I look for. I mean, it's, a dead hooker is still a woman who probably
Yes.
has a family and children.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that's what can be brought out. It's just not a dead body in a dumpster. This was
Mm,
somebody who lived,
mm,
loved, had a family.
mm.
And we need to remember the humanity of the victims,
Yeah.
no matter who they are, what their station in life is, their gender, even if it's a man or, trans or gay or whatever. We should never forget the humanity of those victims.
Mm, definitely. And okay, let's take a different look at this. So, like, you know, in 2018, the Staunch Prize, which is an award set up to recognize crime and thriller novels without violence against women, was launched and faced criticism from major crime novelists like Velma Dermot, who believed that as long as there is violence against women in the world, it should be reflected in fiction. So, what is your take on the idea
Hmm.
that mystery crime thriller books can work without some form of violence against women? I mean, do you think
Oh.
it's feasible given some of the long-standing genre conventions and tropes as we were talking about?
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of on the fence about this because it depends on the plot of the book. Um, the plot of the book may involve somebody going around killing men who drive ram trucks, you know,
Mm,
or the plot may be somebody going and killing young women who hang out at vampire bars. And that's not it's not really a male or female thing. It's a plot. It's a plot in
mm,
a story.
yeah.
And so, do I think that would ever violence against women will ever be phased out in fiction? Absolutely not, because
Mm,
sometimes it's the story,
mm,
and sometimes by writing these stories, we do shine a light on it and how horrible it is. But
mm,
again, violence against men in these books is the same. It's still horrible. It's still the death and violence against a human being.
mm,
Um, so, no, to answer your question, I think
mm,
that will never go away. And not
yeah.
because somebody wants to celebrate it, but because
Mm,
as a writer, I get ideas.
mm,
And if I have a good idea, I'm not going to say, oh, I can't write about that. No, I'm going to
right.
write about it. And
Mm,
and so I think that's where it is. Now, if you're reading somebody several books and they always seem to have violence against women, take another look at that author. You know, but
yeah.
the crimes in these crime novels should be varied and
Mm,
complex. They shouldn't
mm,
just be a single, you know, uh, a single type of victim.
yes, definitely. And stories can be one of the most powerful ways of bringing about social change because they
Yes.
can help change cultural narratives and perspectives about social issues and traditions. In your opinion, how can authors strike a balance in their storytelling between raising an awareness about human rights issues, such as violence against women, while telling an engaging story without being pedantic or preachy?
We can, we have a unique opportunity to entertain people and tell them things. A lot of people will read a lot of novels, but they'd never
Mhm.
pick up a newspaper. Uh,
Mm,
and so we have a unique opportunity to shine a light on something that might be wrong or needs to be changed.
mm,
And that's how I think it is. But again, you have to balance it. You don't want to be preachy.
mm,
Um, you don't want to sound like you're lecturing, or you certainly don't want to sound like you're pounding your own personal agenda through the book. Um, you have to remember all writers, all fiction writers are entertainers. We're there
yes.
first and foremost to entertain people. And so if you can slip, it's like a parrot slipping vegetables into something yummy. It's if we can slip important things
Mm-hmm.
into these books
Mm,
and do it seamlessly and without sounding preachy,
mm.
good for us, because more people are reading us than they're reading newspapers.
Yes, I mean, I'm a reader, definitely, but there should be a balance. We should read fiction as well as facts.
Mhm.
But yes, and I totally love that vegetable analogy.
Yeah. Yeah. Put
Okay,
something good for them and something bad for them.
okay, so we have a question from the audience. I'll put it
Yay.
up for you. Yay. So this is from Misty 306. Hi Misty. Misty is one of our
Hi,
regular
Misty.
for Pixel people. Yeah. So Misty asks, you write your female characters who take revenge against those, especially men who violated them. It's difficult for females to strike back in the moment. So how do you write such characters?
Well, um, boy, it's difficult. I will tell you, it's difficult, Misty. In the piece I just read, Kate attacked Gus and beat him without
Mm,
mercy.
mm,
But she didn't do it at the time he assaulted her. Um, and I think sometimes people, women in particular, we have a tendency to internalize things and then snap. And
mm,
so I write these characters as sometimes as I would feel, Kate Hastings grew up with a violent family and was abused as a young child. And after a while, like I said in the piece I read, she was hitting Gus, not just for what he did to her and her former boyfriend. She was hitting him for what her father did to her and her sisters. She was hitting
mm,
him for everything.
mm,
And so you kind of think about that, about, yes, there's revenge, um, but it doesn't seem to happen all at once with women. They seem to internalize it until they can't take anymore. Think about the some of the famous movies and books about women who killed their husbands. They didn't kill them the first time, they beat them.
mm,
They killed them
mm,
many years later.
mm.
So,
Okay.
but it is difficult to write that. I will tell you, when I wrote, and in another episode of Dead Woman Driving, Kate helps rescue some women who have been
Mm-hmm.
kidnapped. And, it is hard for me to write that. I know it's part of the story. I know it needs to be written, but it is not easy. The first novel I ever wrote, which has never been published,
Hmm.
there's a rape in there. I had to get drunk to write the rape.
Oh dear.
I kept
Okay.
writing it and I couldn't do it and I couldn't do it. And I just was so upset. And
Mm.
then one night I just opened a bottle of wine, drank it, and boom, I wrote the scene. And my agent at that time thought it was brilliant. But
Wow.
the book was never sold. Um,
Ah.
but so it is not easy to write that stuff, at least
Mm.
not for me. Maybe for others,
Mm.
but not for me.
Interesting. So you can drink and write.
I not often. And I tend to write early in the morning, so the most I'm drinking is coffee.
The elixir of the gods. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and wow, we've actually come to the final question of our session. So, you have been so very incredibly supportive of our Read for Pixels campaign and our anti-violence against women work as a whole. So, this is a two-part question, and it's a bit obvious, but why do you support the cause to end violence against women, and
Mm.
what do you think authors can do to help with the cultural change needed to eradicate violence against women and girls?
Well, and I've already said the second part. Let me answer the second part first. I think authors can help by
Mm,
supporting organizations like your own. And I
mm,
also think we can do it by writing credible characters who undergo difficulties and
mm,
come out of it. I want a woman who is reading a book where a woman's abused that I've written
mm.
and see that they can bring back the power in their lives. Whether you're abused because you're overweight and old, or maybe you're not the ideal Hollywood wife, or you're a young woman trying to rescue your life from a childhood of abuse.
Mm,
I want my readers to see that they're not alone. This
mm,
happens all the time, every day,
mm,
but you can draw from your inner strength and overcome it.
mm,
Um, Now, for the first part, why do I support this and all? You know, I'm 69 years old, and
Mhm.
it chagrins me that we are still having this conversation. It bothers the bejesus out of me that we're
Mm,
still having this conversation.
mm,
Um, when I was a young woman, it was going on. It was going on way before I was born. It's still going on. Inequality in the workplace, misogyny. And I'm going to say, look at how the recent Supreme Court nominees being treated. Um,
mm.
it is still going on, and this really, really, really pisses me off. And I hope that was an okay word, but um, it makes me crazy that
Mm,
I am almost 70 years old,
mm,
and my great nieces, my niece,
mm.
and these people are still fighting this battle in their lives that I had to fight. This should not still be going on.
Yeah, true, true. Yeah, and I mean, it's a long war. It's
It's a
definitely a
long
long
war.
war.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
a long war. And so all we can do is continue to fight the
Mm,
good fight and to keep steady
mm,
and not perpetuate it,
mm.
and to give support to other women who are going through it.
Yeah, true. I've noticed a last minute question from another member of our audience, so I'm
Okay,
just gonna pop it up here.
sure.
Yeah. So Andres, hi Andres. So Andres has been with us before. So this is relevant to you specifically,
Hi,
so
Andreas.
so you've traveled through several states, several US states, I assume. Do you notice a difference in the way women and men are socialized and are brought up to think about the opposite gender from one state to another?
Mm,
Or is it more that the differences come from living in big cities versus rural areas?
that's an excellent question. And I certainly don't want to offend any of my host states. Um, but yes, I have seen uh, definitely. I mean, I spent most of my life in Los Angeles. So it was a real eye opener getting into the rural parts of the United States. But that said, it's a mixed bag, just like it is in the city. It's a mixed bag. Um, I think there are some states that are more, the male stereotypes, and things like that. I'm currently in Texas. Yeehaw! It's there are some states that seem to be more macho, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's more abuse going on here.
Fair.
There's a lot of abuse taking place in what you would think a sophisticated city is. Um, it's everywhere. Uh, I have been in almost every single state in this country, and all of them, you're going to find it everywhere, just as you're going to find lovely, evolved people everywhere.
Mm. It's the human spectrum.
It's the human spectrum, but there are certain states that are much more macho oriented because of cowboys and things like that. But the women in these states are also formidable. I mean, they can ride and rope and shoot and take on anybody. So, like I said, it really is an individual thing more than a geographical thing.
Mm, true. And on that note, I mean, thank you, Sue Ann, for that excellent discussion.
Oh,
And
thank you. I've loved being with you guys, and I'm so thrilled at the good work you're doing.
oh, thank you so much. And just to remind our audience, in case you missed the beginning of our session, we're excited to let you know that Suhan has not only generously spent her time here with us today, but also donated some exclusive giveaways to the stash of author goodies we have up as perks for donors at the Read for Pixels Rally Up fundraising page. Now, I'll just go through them again. So the first goodie Suhan is offering is to Tuckerize you in her next book. For donors in the United States only, if you have ever dreamed dreamed of being immortalized in a mystery crime novel featuring awesome and intrepid female detectives and sleuths, like we were talking about, then look no further. Sue Ann is offering a rare Tuckerization bundle for one very generous Read for Pixels donor in the United States, which includes one opportunity to name a minor character in her next book. And the donor gets to choose between either Dead Ringer, which is the upcoming second book in the Zelda Brown series, or Book 13 in the ODELIA GREY series. And you will also receive one signed copy of the book when it's released to keep as a memento. And if you're really generous, you can actually buy this to give it as a gift to someone else. So I think that would be a really awesome present. But fear not, if you're not residing in the US though, these next two goodies are for donors who anywhere in the world. Now, goodie number 2 is a one-to-one video chat with Sue Ann. She is offering a chance for one generous donor for Read for Pixels to claim a 1-hour video chat during which she would be happy to share her insights on the art and craft of writing, chat about the business of publishing, or even just shoot the breeze about books and life with you. And she would also be happy to have this session with a mystery crime book club or writing group. So if you're a member of such a club or group, feel free to gather your buddies and pull together the donation for this video chat. And goodie number 3 is the Dead Woman Driving ebook bundle. For those who are looking for something fresh and exciting to read, Sue Ann is offering one complete digital set of her Dead for Woman Driving serial novel. And this novel is about Hope Callahan, also known as Kate Hastings, who has led a rough life, often with a side of crime to survive, and is on the run across the US in an RV after a drug deal gone wrong. And this is perfect for anyone who's looking for an unusual mystery featuring a woman who's given a second chance in life. Now, there is just one each of Sue Ann's exclusive goodies, and they are available on a first-come, first-served basis. So go on and donate to our fundraiser today to snag your choice of these great treats. There are also plenty more goodies available on our Rally Up fundraising page from other Read for Pixels authors and publishers, including Adiba Jagridar, Alaya Johnson, Amanda Boucher, Charlie N. Homburg, Eugene Bacon, Jeffrey Kennedy, Juliet Marilia, Lauren Willick, Linda D. Addison, Eloisa James, Meg Gardiner, Sujata Messi, Zhang Books, Page Street Publishing, and more. And let me share a slide with you. Here we go. So you can donate to get these goodies on RallyUp at tinyurl.com/R4P RallyUp IWD 2022. These are case sensitive, so be careful when you type it out. And if you want to learn more about Read for Pixels and our past and upcoming author sessions, go to bit.ly/readforpixels. We have currently raised $2,177 towards our $5,000 goal so far, so please do give generously before the fundraiser ends on April 15. All funds go towards the Pixel Project's work to help end violence against women. Now, the Pixel Project has also produced our very first charity anthology titled Giving the Devil His Due, where the Twilight Zone meets promising young women. It is available for order from major booksellers worldwide, including Amazon, Kobo, Google Play, Book Depository, and more. And as a bonus for early bird buyers, we have teamed up with 12 of the 16 authors to offer an exclusive limited edition anthology bookplate. Each author will sign 16 bookplates, and they'll be given out on a first-come, first-served basis. Each bookplate also includes a resource for domestic violence and sexual assault victims and survivors in 205 countries. So if you know anyone who might be in such a situation and could use some help, this might be a pretty good gift to slip to them. For more information about the anthology and how to score a bookplate, visit bit.ly/givingthedevil his due. All net proceeds from the sale of this anthology go towards keeping the Pixel Project's campaigns, programs, and initiatives, such as this one, alive and kicking. And to find out more about violence against women and what you can do about it, visit the Pixel Project's website at www.thepixelproject.net. Now, Sue Ann, I believe you have an announcement for us?
Oh, just about upcoming books. The second Zelda Bowen book, Dead Ringer, will be out by the end of the year. And also number 9, episode 9 in Dead Woman Driving will be out shortly. So I got a couple of things coming out around the end of the year, before the end of the year.
Lovely. And with that, we've end of our session for today. Thank you everyone for joining us and have a good day or good night wherever you are in the world.